5-4, solving system word problems, day 1. Okay, so what's system mean? Two what? Two equations. Good, okay. We've talked about systems, two equations, all right? For all last week, we talked about systems with graphs. So two equations on a graph. We talked about just two equations. What do we do then? We talked about tables, system tables. Okay, you should have watched the YouTube video of that while I was out. Everybody watch it? Yeah. Okay, good. So now we're going to start with word problems. Okay, we're going to do several days of word problems because this is one of the harder things that you're going to learn. All right, and people really struggle with word problems, especially when you have two equations from them. Okay, so this is going to be day 1. I think we have 3 days of them. All right, and then you guys are almost halfway through the last unit for the semester, so that's exciting. Okay, here we go. So system word problems. The example says, set up a system of equations and solve for the values indicated. All right, we've tried to come up with a way to make this as simple as possible. Okay, so there's 4 steps, and these 4 steps is what you need to do every single time you have a system word problem. Okay, now these 4 boxes will be on your notes and your practice. They won't be on your test. You got to be able to come up with the 4 boxes on your test. Okay, but it's very important that you do all 4 steps in order to get the correct answer. It says there are 22 students in a classroom. There are 12 more girls than boys. Find the number of boys and the number of girls in the class. So step 1 says define. Identify your 2 variables. Okay, so it's telling you you're going to have 2 variables. So what are the 2 variables we use when we write an equation? X and Y. Okay, so now I need to know which one's X, which one's Y. Well, what are the 2 things we're talking about? Boys and girls. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one's which. I'll just make boys, X, write this with me, and girls, Y. Everybody should have X boys, Y girls. It is very important that you write what they mean, okay? Which one's which, right? Because eventually you might start getting mixed up. Which one did I say was X? Which one did I say was Y again? Okay, towards the end of the problem. Step 2 says design. Formulate 2 equations. So I got to come up with 2 equations, all right? We're going to start with the first sentence. It says, there are 22 students in a classroom. I can come up with an equation from this, all right? 22 students. What is this? It's boys and girls. That is my what? Total. Yeah. So I have a total in this problem. Students represents boys and girls, right? I say I have 22 students in this room right now. There's boys and there's girls. So students represents boys and girls. All right, so you guys told me I have a total, correct? So that's how I'm going to start my first equation, with that total. Well, what's my total? 22. So I'm going to say 22 equals. And it's the total of boys and girls. Well, if I was to count you guys in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, am I adding every time or am I subtracting every time? I'm adding. So I'm adding however many boys and however many girls. Students represents boys and girls. Everybody understand how I got that first one? Okay. The next sentence. There are 12 more girls than boys. Okay. Every time you're working through these word problems, I want you to circle, underline, okay, identify what's what. So there are 12. 12 is a number, so I'm going to circle it. More girls. Girls represents what variable? Y. So put a Y above it. So 12 more than. More than is what? More than. What symbol? More than would be adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. Adding. More than is adding. Okay? So I'm going to be adding. Boys. What does boys represent? x. Okay, 12 more girls than boys. Do I have a total in this sentence only? There are 12 more girls than boys. Does it tell me the total? No. Okay. Now this one is different because it does not tell you the total. So if it does not tell you the total, we're going to start with the first variable in the sentence, okay? There are 12 more girls than boys. So what variable comes first? Girls comes before boys. So everybody see how girls is first, okay? Because there's not a total and girls comes first, I start the second equation with girls equal because it comes first. So y equals, okay? Then, whatever the rest is, 12 plus x. So if I took out the y, we have 12 plus x. Everybody see that? I took out the y because I've already used the y. I started with it. It's already gone. So 12 plus x is the rest of the equation. Got it? Any questions? Did you write it? Write it with me. Okay, step 3 says do. Solve for the variables indicated. Okay, I've got how many equations? 2. Okay, how do I solve for each x and each y? The calculator. Good job, Sai. Okay, so turn your calculator on. And I'm going to go to new document. Number 1. Do it with me. And we've got 2 equations, a system. So I'm going to go to menu. Which one? 3. Algebra. 2. And system. Right there, number 2. We've got how many equations? And are we using x and y? Yes. And then we're going to plug them in. 22 equals x plus y. Y equals, grab notes. $12 plus x. Hit enter. And I get an ordered pair. Okay, so we get 517? Yep. All right, you'll need a calculator too, that's fun. Okay, so 5, 17. Now, what does this tell me? It's the solution. That's where they cross, right? What's the 5 represent? A. What's the 17 represent? Y. Okay, so that's my x and y. Well, x is actually what? Boys. So how many boys do I have? 5 boys. So I'm going to say 5 boys. How many girls do I have? 17 girls. Everybody see that? That's why it's super important that you label what your x and y is, because right here you have to know which one is x and y. X is boys, y is girls. Okay? Step 4, last thing. Did we answer the question? Well, what was the question asking? Find the number of boys and the number of girls. Did we find how many boys and girls there are? Yes. Okay. Is it reasonable? Okay. If I took the x and the y, right? It says there are 22 students in the classroom. If I add the boys and girls, does that give me 22? Yes. Then it says there are 12 more girls than boys. Are there 12 more girls than boys? Yes. Okay, there's 12 more girls, 17, than 5 boys. So is this reasonable? Yes. So what we're going to say is total, add to 22, and 12 more girls than boys, which is just like it said in the word problem. Okay? I want you to go back through the word problem and see, do these numbers make sense? Okay? My first class today, they were coming up with these crazy fractions because this part wasn't right. Okay? When you get the wrong equation, if you get the wrong equation, then these numbers aren't going to make sense with the word problem. Okay? If they don't make sense with the word problem, then you've messed up your equations and you need to go back and see where you messed up. That makes sense? Okay, if these numbers don't make sense with the word problem, somewhere you messed up in step 2. Okay, any questions? All right, here we go. Number 2. Jamie has twice as much money as Kristen. Together they have $36. How much money does each have? Okay, so step 1, we need to identify. Step 1, identify your 2 variables. Okay, so this first box, what are my 2 variables? X and Y. Okay, and what are X and Y talking about? What are we comparing?
Jamie and Tristan.
Jamie and Kristen. So I'm going to say X is Jamie, Y is Kristen. Okay, design. Step 2 is formulate the 2 equations. Okay, so now I got to come up with 2 equations, all right? Sentence by sentence right now. That's how we're doing it. It says Jamie. Jamie represents what? X. Has twice is, what's twice? 2 times 2. So 2 times something. As much money as Kristen. And what's Kristen? Y. Great. Does this sentence give me a total?
Yes, 36.
Nope, just this sentence. Jamie has twice as much money as Kristen. Does it give me a total? No. So how do I start it? With the first variable. Well, what variable comes first? Jamie, which is X, right? So my first equation, because I don't have a total, is going to start with X equals. And then the rest of it, twice as much money as Kristen. So how is that going to look? 2y. They're touching with no symbol, so that means multiply. You write it, Brian? Okay. Everybody understand?
Yeah.
No total, so you start with that first variable. The second sentence, together, they have $36. What's together mean? Everybody. Okay, both of them. So who? Jamie and Kristen. Do I have a total in this sentence? Yes, it's 36. So because I have the total, now I'm going to start with the total equals. Equals what?
35.
What does the total equal? The 2 people, right? X and Y. However much money Kristen has and however much money Jamie has. It's going to give me that total. Okay, does everybody understand why one is multiplying and one is adding? Okay? All right, do. So we're going to plug it in, and we're going to go find that ordered pair. So everybody should be in the calculator mode. Menu. Algebra. And we're talking about systems. I've got 2 equations, and we're using X and Y. So X equals 2Y. 36 equals X plus Y. Enter. And we get? Everybody get 24 and 12? All right. 24 represents X. 12 represents Y. So how much money did Jamie have? Jamie is X, and X is $24. How much did Kristen have? Good. She represents Y, and the Y number is 12. Okay, let's debrief. Did you answer the question? Well, the question was, how much does each have? Did we answer that?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, then it says, is your answer reasonable? We'll go back through and read it. Jamie has twice as much as Kristen. Does Jamie have twice as much as Kristen? Yes. Together they have 36. Do these add up to 36? Yes. Okay, so we're going to write that. Jamie has twice as much. Together add to $36. Any questions? How are we feeling?
Good.
Good? Good. So the biggest thing today is writing those equations, right? Going from the words to equations. So you have to ask yourself every problem, every sentence, does it have a total? If yes, then you start with that total number. If no, it does not have a total, then you start with the first variable. Okay, that's the biggest thing. Does it have a total or not? Okay, number 3. Anthony rode his bike 3 times as far as Bobby. Anthony rode 16 miles farther than Bobby. How many miles did Anthony ride? Okay, define. So we got to define what our X and our Y is. Well, what are the 2 things that we're talking about? Anthony and Bobby. And then we're going to go sentence by sentence. It says Anthony rode. So Anthony represents X. I want you to be writing in the words like I do. So underline Anthony and put X. Rode his bike 3 times as far as Bobby. So what else is important? 3 times. And that means what? 3 multiplies. So I'm going to put 3 in a dot. As far as Bobby. What else is important? Bobby. And he's what? Y. Okay, Anthony rode his bike 3 times as far as Bobby. Do we have a total? This first sentence, does it give me a total? No. So what do I start my equation with? The first variable, which is X equals 3 times as far as Bobby. So that's going to be 3Y. When you multiply, you don't put that symbol in there. Okay, the next sentence. Anthony, which is? Anthony is my X. Rode 16 miles farther than Bobby. What else is important? Farther than is? Add. Good. And Bobby is? Y. Okay, does this give me a total? No, it doesn't. Is 16 farther than a total? No. Okay, it doesn't say together they ran this or, okay, it just says he went 16 farther than the other one. It doesn't tell me how many total miles they rode. So because I don't have a total, what do I start with? The first variable. Is it always going to be X? No. Okay, the first variable is Anthony, so X equals. Then what's left? 16 plus Y. Okay, do. How do I do the do? How do I solve? Calculator. Okay, so everybody go to menu. Algebra. System. 2 equations, X and Y. X equals 3Y. X equals 16 plus Y. Then we're going to hit enter. And we get 24 and 8. So I'm going to write that in the box. Okay, 24 represents X, 8 represents Y. What does that ask for? How many miles did Anthony ride? Do I care about Bobby? No. So how many did Anthony ride? Good. Anthony, 24 miles. Do I need to write Bobby? No. Is it okay if I do? It's okay. Okay, but we don't have to. All right, debrief, last box. Did I answer the question? Yes, because we said how many Anthony rode. Does it make sense? Is it reasonable? Did Anthony ride 3 times as far as Bobby? Is 24 3 times as 8? Yes. Did Anthony ride 16 miles? Farther than. Is 24 or 16 miles further than 8? Yes. Okay, so we need to write that. Anthony went 3 times and 16 miles farther than Bobby. Any questions about this? So what are you looking for when you write your equations?
X and Y and
Yeah. Okay. How do you know how to start the equation? Do what?
total.
Good. Come on. You're looking for that total. Okay. You ask every sentence. You're writing an equation. Does it give me a total? Yes. Then you start with the total. No. Then you start with the first variable. Okay. Good? Okay.